Hi, I'm Billy McMillin, editor of Mike Wallace is Here. We're at the 2019 Sundance Film Festival. My film's in the U.S. documentary competition. The documentary is about Mike Wallace. That's the short of it. But really, the documentary is about the changing landscape of journalism over the course of Mike's life and how he, as a journalist, changed it, how he played a part in that, and how things have kind of gotten to the point, the precarious tipping point we're at now, where journalism is really under fire. For Mike Wallace's Here, we had, of our primary footage, we had 698 hours of footage. It was a lot to go through. The film is entirely archival. Um, it's it's a tough film. It was a tough film to put together because we wanted to tell the film like it was a Mike Wallace interview. Mike was one of the first kind of hard hitting interviewers, and we wanted to do the film entirely with archive film. Mike's been interviewed various times throughout his life, but like any kind of personality, he's kind of got his kind of set story down, and really what we had to do was go through hours and hours and hours. I think around 200 hours of Mike being interviewed himself to kind of construct a narrative of Mike's life, and really looking for those times when he breaks character, when he doesn't, when he's not just a performer and actually starts to break down his life. We had pretty much every format imaginable in the film. We have a ton of original 16, Super 8. We have black and white. The film has a lot of, it covers 60 years in broadcast journalism. So you have everything from analog video to kinescopes in the 1950s, to digital video in the 80s, and all different formats, all different frame rates. So it was really a challenge of us taking all that footage, dumping it down into the project in one format, converting everything so that it's editable, and then working with it there. And then it was a tremendous amount of kind of going back to online the film at the end. But this is the first time I've worked with Avi Belkin. He's an Israeli director, really talented guy, really very story driven guy, very artistic guy. Avi and I had around 13,000 pages of transcripts that we went through to kind of construct Mike's life story, and to try to find all of these moments of clarity, and these moments of where we would really see the pitfalls that he went through in his life, and also try to take those and tell a bigger story of journalism. We So we would basically go through and highlight out chapters through our transcripts, and then I would make these, my assistant would make these giant string outs where we would have just huge lists of chapter topics, and we would just try to assemble some sort of narrative. I've been working with different assistant editors throughout my 15 years as an editor, and since day one, all of my assistants have always have cut scenes. I think it's a really important thing that they do. Obviously, I'm not an organized person myself, and they are the person that I rely on to be that organization, and to kind of be the person that's holding the ship together. But because of that, I always look for people that have an artistic side to them, something that that they have some sort of creativity within them. And the guy that I'm working with right now, Kevin Ott, who is a tremendous kid, very detail oriented, came up with some of the most original things that we have in the film just almost by happenstance. We do a lot of split screens in the film. Mike does one-on-one interviews, and so very early on we decided we wanted to do a lot of the film where we would have one subject on one side and Mike on the other side, and have the interviews start that way, or have the kind of the outs of the interviews start that way before we kind of go on to into the duel. And Kevin was the first one to kind of take the film and show it to us in that format, and we were like, this is brilliant. We should actually try to edit the film, or some of the film, in this way, in this format, so we can actually, you can see what this guy was thinking as this question was asked. You get to see a lot of what the audience didn't see in these longer pieces. And so Kevin would cut some of those early scenes and started to actually put together some really brilliant scenes off of that. I do normally work with Adobe. Yeah, I started as a Final Cut editor when Final Cut was still a functional editing platform, and then I switched to Adobe after it became kind of futile. We actually, because most of our film came from CBS, from the CBS News archives, and they are an entirely Avid based environment. We had to. It was my choice. I really wanted to edit in Premiere. I'm comfortable in Premiere, and it performs in a more organic way that I like. And so every stitch of footage came in from Avid, and we transcoded everything and converted it into a Premiere project. And then we had a tremendous amount of just stock footage and archive that would come in. We could have in any sort of format, slap it in the timeline, and just see how things would operate. The most challenging thing with this film was breaking down this character's facade. Mike Wallace is a performer. He started his career as an actor, and so he was a very rehearsed, very polished person. When you're doing a typical documentary, and you have a primary subject, you might interview them 20 times, throughout the course of a normal documentary. And normally, what you do is, you develop a relationship, and your questions change over time. When you're dealing with an entirely archived film, like we were with Mike Wallace's here, the interviews are a repetition, because it's different interviewers interviewing Mike throughout the decades. He's telling his same story 90% of the time. And so really what you have to do is find those tiny little nuggets when he gets frustrated, when somebody pushes his buttons, the same way that he would push buttons. And what we had to do was find those few moments and really start to weave those into some narrative that actually made his incredibly compelling life story something that people could relate to.